shocking videos emerged of Turkish journalists under fire from Russian troops while covering the conflict in Georgia. Oh. One of those journalists shot in the head, but amazingly, he survived and he's now recovering. His car riddled with bullet holes. And back in Washington, President Bush had tough words for Russia.
With its actions in recent days, Russia has damaged its credibility and its relations with the nations of the free world. Bullying and intimidation are not acceptable ways to conduct foreign policy in the 21st century. A contentious relationship with Russia is not in America's interest. And a contentious relationship with America is not in Russia's interest.
Russian Army trucks are carting away what's left of the Georgian Navy in the port city of Poti. Zodiac-style rubber boats and other small craft. Left behind, other ships and patrol boats of the Navy and the Coast Guard destroyed and sunk by the Russians just in the last few days. Old hands at the port can't believe it. It's hard to understand what happened here, this man tells me. It's hard for me to see this. The destruction and the looting at this Georgian Navy and Coast Guard base is one more example of the systematic stripping of strategic assets in this country by the Russian military, all aimed at neutralizing a threat and teaching a lesson. At a nearby Georgian Army base, radio antennas were toppled, storage sheds ransacked, and offices trashed. The Russians were here yesterday. And 20 miles east in the town of Sanaki, at one of the largest bases in Georgia, the Russians act like they own the place. We're told they're either stealing or destroying everything in sight. Russian troops 1 week into this conflict show no signs of withdrawing in compliance with the ceasefire deal Moscow agreed to days ago. In fact, on the roads of western Georgia today, we found Russians venturing even farther towards the capital Tbilisi, assembling more heavy armor at a key transportation link, and even sending foot patrols into the countryside, reportedly to hunt down more hidden Georgian arms. The locals are rattled. We are peaceful citizens, this man tells me, and we are very afraid. As area residents look on, the Russians are clearly playing for time. The suspicion here is they want to do as much damage as possible before being forced to withdraw.
Mr. President, there are reports that our country and others had warned before you moved on South Ossetia last week that the Russians had a huge response plan. In other words, that this move would be a mistake, and that you ignored that advice.
Absolutely.
Is that true?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We didn't move on South Ossetia. We responded to Russian moving in. That's exactly what they were saying, that there's a Russian build-up over the border. That's exactly what we were saying as well. We were saying that the Russians are preparing intervention, that the world should do something about it. But unfortunately, the response came the response that came was too little and too late. And they came in, and we were left we were basically in the beginning alone against this machine, but then we had choice either to resist or to surrender, and basically we choose to resist, although it came at a price.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I guess what I wasn't, they claim, the Russians claim, and some of these military intelligence figures claim that you in fact started this, and they had warned you that while you might be justified in starting it, well, you might be justified that you created the mess we have. What do you make of that?
Look, Russians can claim just whatever they want. That is exactly the kind of thing they were claiming, that Czechoslovakia provoked them in 1968, or that Finland attacked them in 1939. You know, any military expert can tell you that if someone goes into a neighboring country that can mobilize within 3-4 hours 1,200 tanks, those tanks should have been long time ago on the roll and moving, and not just, you know, waiting somewhere and responding to us. They were already moving in, as well as, you know, they had whole infrastructure built in. They mobilized reservists 1 week before fighting, and they evacuated every woman and child from the area of fighting.
Bullying and intimidation are not acceptable ways to conduct foreign policy in the 21st century.
In Tbilisi, Georgia's president said he'd only agreed to a ceasefire because of Russia's overwhelming might.
Today we are looking